What if I told you that even in the midst of the darkest storm, there is a certainty that can transform your life? Have you ever wondered why sometimes, when all seems lost, a small flame of hope insists on burning within you? What is it that gives rise to this power when you think you have no strength left? Today I want to reveal something that could change the way you face your challenges. What you've carried so far may not be yours alone. What if the secret to the peace you so desperately seek is not in what is happening around you, but in how you choose to respond? Join me to the end of this video. Together we will discover that everything will be fine. Not by accident, but because there is a greater truth that underlies your life. You didn't get here by accident. There is a word for your heart, and it may be exactly what you needed to hear today. Have you ever felt that your life is falling apart? That despite your best efforts, things just seem to get more complicated? I know that many of us carry the weight of sleepless nights, heart-wrenching worries, and thoughts that insist on saying, "But what if I told you that there is something, or rather, someone, holding you up right now?" Even when the winds are blowing against you and the ground seems unstable, there is a force that will never let you down. When I was among the people, I saw downcast faces, empty stares, and hearts worried about tomorrow. People ask themselves, why does God allow me to suffer so much? Or has He forgotten me? I heard these questions not only with my ears but with my heart. And today I say to you, no, you have not been forgotten. There is an unseen but firm hand guiding your steps, even when your eyes can't see it. I remember a man who came to me once with tears in his eyes. He had lost everything, his family, his job, his hope. He asked me, "What do I have left when everything is gone?" And I replied, "When everything falls apart, that's when you see what really remains. The Father's love does not waver. His essence is within you, sustaining you beyond circumstances. What keeps you standing is not your external accomplishments, but the unquenchable flame He has planted in your soul. Perhaps you carry a silent pain that no one can see, but that consumes you from within. How many times have you smiled on the outside so as not to worry others, but felt yourself crumbling on the inside? I know this feeling. I've seen crowds full of fake smiles and broken hearts, but I've also seen miracles happen when people allowed themselves to trust, even if it was just a thread of hope. And it is that trust that I want to rekindle in you now. Imagine a branch that seems fragile under the force of the wind. It looks as if it could snap at any moment. But what holds it up is not just its appearance, but the roots that are firmly planted in the ground. So it is with life. What matters is not the storm around you, but the roots you choose to cultivate. If those roots are of fear, despair will shake you. But if they are of faith, no storm will be able to uproot them. It is often in the moment of greatest weakness that true strength is revealed. When I was in the middle of the desert, not just physically, but facing the shadows within, I realized that resistance doesn't come from human will, but from a connection to something much greater. The silence of that place taught me that even when everything seems empty, the Spirit is there whispering, "Keep going, I am with you." You may not see it now, but every tear shed, every prayer spoken in the silence of your pain is heard. There is no sincere cry that goes unheard. The universe responds to the heart that searches with truth. The Father is not indifferent to your suffering. On the contrary, it is in these moments that He draws even closer, hoping that you will allow Him to carry you, like a father who welcomes a tired child after a hard day. And I know that the human mind insists on doubting. But why me? The answer doesn't always come the way we expect. Some struggles are actually invitations to realize the strength you've always had and never recognized. For when everything is taken away, what is left? You and the unchanging love that resides within you. What remains is the truth that no matter what is lost on the outside, there is something eternal and unshakable within. It's natural to want things around you to change. Who doesn't want instant relief? But what if the real change begins with you first? Sometimes we wait for circumstances to change before we find peace, but peace, the kind that no one can take away, comes from within. It's not in what happens, but in who you choose to be, even in the midst of pain. When you ground yourself in this truth, everything around you may crumble, but you stand firm. There is an invisible passage between the tears of today and the smile of tomorrow. And it is at that intersection that you discover that everything will be all right. Not because the world will instantly change, but because something within you awakens to a new reality. And when that happens, you realize that there are burdens that were never yours to carry alone. There are times when life becomes too much of a burden to carry. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what you've been carrying alone? How much worry, guilt, and fear is taking up space in your heart? Maybe it's recurring thoughts about the future, painful memories of the past, or responsibilities that seem to suffocate you. It's like walking with a backpack full of rocks. With each step, the weight becomes more unbearable, and yet many continue on believing they must carry it all alone. But what if I told you that there are things you are never meant to carry? As I watched people suffer, I noticed something common to all: the tendency to hold on to what should have been let go. Some carried old guilt that held them more than it taught them. Others clung to fears that kept them from moving forward. How often have you insisted on solving everything yourself, even when exhaustion was knocking at the door? Pride often makes us believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. But true strength lies in recognizing your limits and knowing when to let go of what no longer fits. I once met a woman who was tormented by regret. She told me, "I've made so many mistakes." And I looked at her with compassion and reminded her that forgiveness is not something you earn with suffering, but something you accept with humility. The Father doesn't want you to live in guilt. His love is like a river that washes everything it meets. But to be washed, you must allow yourself to enter those waters, leaving behind the weight of self-criticism and judgment. What about worry? I know it's easy to say don't worry when the problems seem bigger than you. Bills to pay, relationships falling apart, failing health. But answer me honestly, what's the point of consuming yourself with worry? Worrying has never solved a problem. On the contrary, it only consumes your energy and obscures your ability to see solutions. It's like trying to cross a river with a bag of sand. You may get to the other side, but the crossing will be much more difficult and tiring than it needs to be. The Father wants you to give him your worries, not because he's going to do everything for you, but because by letting go of these burdens, you make room to receive direction, clarity, and peace. Imagine a child trying to carry a heavy suitcase while his father walks beside him with outstretched hands. How often does this stubborn child insist on carrying alone until he can't take it anymore? And the parent patiently waits for the moment when the child finally gives in and realizes how much easier it is to walk. You don't have to wait until you're exhausted to trust. How many nights have you wasted imagining scenarios that never happened? How many dialogues have you created in your mind for situations that never happened? Tomorrow belongs to the Father, and the past, that cannot be changed. What you have is now. And right now, you can choose to let go of what is weighing you down and only hold on to what is building you up. It's not about ignoring challenges. It's about approaching them with a lighter heart and a more open mind. There was a man who asked me in the midst of his worries, "But if I let go, who will take care of it?" And I told him, "The same one who has kept your heart beating without you having to think about it. The same one who makes the rain fall and the seed grow. Trust. There is a divine intelligence that guides every detail of existence. What seems disorderly to your eyes is part of a larger plan that often takes time to understand. But to see this order behind the chaos, you must be willing to give up control. Yes, this word can be annoying. Who doesn't like to feel in charge? But the truth is that the desire to control is one of the greatest sources of suffering. You were created to live in harmony, not in constant inner struggle. And that harmony begins when you surrender, not as one who gives up, but as one who trusts. What if, instead of trying to understand the why of everything, you began to ask, what can I learn from this? Life is transformed when we exchange resistance for acceptance. I'm not talking about fitting in, I'm talking about finding meaning in even the most challenging situations. Because it's in the midst of pain that the greatest revelations happen. And when you choose to let go of what you can't control, you realize that the universe is moving to bring you what is truly yours. Sometimes things only get right when we stop insisting on solving them alone. The burden that weighs you down today can become lighter if you allow the Father to carry it with you. He doesn't promise that the road will be without pebbles, but he does guarantee that you will never have to walk alone. And it is in this certainty that the soul finds rest. For by letting go of that which no longer serves you, you make room for that which is truly uplifting. And in the midst of this surrender, a silent choice arises: to continue to feed your fears, or to begin to listen to that still voice that whispers, "Life is full of choices, isn't it? But of all the choices we make, few are as crucial as those involving our faith." Fear and faith coexist within us, often competing for our attention. And with so much uncertainty, it's hard to know which voice to listen to. How often have you found yourself paralyzed by doubt, believing more in what could go wrong than in what could go right? When I was among people, I saw many who lived with their eyes fixed on fear. Fear of what others would think, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. I understand this feeling because at many points in my journey, I have been challenged to face my own fears. But I've learned that fear, as real as it may seem, is never meant to be our guide. Fear is actually a shadow that feeds on doubt. When it enters our hearts, it distorts reality, making us see danger where there is often none. Worst of all, when we feed this shadow, it grows bigger and stronger. That's why I said, "Fear not, for I am with you," because I knew that if people chose to trust the light that is always by their side, they would be able to weather any storm. I ask you, what voice have you been listening to the most lately? The voice that tells you that you're not capable, that you can't do it, or the voice that tells you to trust, to keep going, to believe that the best is yet to come? Fear will try to convince you that all is lost, that you don't have the strength to go on. But faith calls you to look beyond the dark cloud and see that the sun is still there waiting to shine on you. Often faith comes not as an absolute certainty, but as a conscious choice, even when the circumstances don't make sense. I've seen this in so many lives, people who faced impossible situations, but who chose in their hearts to believe that something greater was working in their favor. They weren't people without fear, but people who learned to act in spite of fear. When you choose to believe, you are not ignoring the difficulty or denying reality. You are simply saying, "I trust that something greater can change this. I believe that the peace I seek is already within me." This is the difference between living in fear and living in faith. Faith is not the absence of challenges, but the courage to move forward even when the path seems uncertain. There was a woman who came to me once in despair because she felt that nothing in her life was in the right place. She told me, "I try, but everything seems to go wrong. How can I have faith when I see so much suffering?" And I looked at her with affection because I knew she wasn't alone. Life can indeed be full of difficulties, but it is in the midst of pain that faith has the power to flourish. I told her, "Suffering is not the end, it is only the beginning of transformation. Trust." What she didn't know at the time was that by choosing to trust, she would open a portal of possibilities she couldn't even imagine. Faith doesn't come from blind certainty, but from an unshakable confidence that despite the difficulties, there is always a reason for what is happening, and there is always a greater purpose. Sometimes you don't understand it right away, but the simple act of trust begins to change your perspective. Fear makes you shut down, withdraw, live in the future, always expecting the worst. Faith, on the other hand, invites you to be present, to live in the now, and to trust that every step you take is guided. Fear makes you believe that life is out of control, but faith teaches you that everything that happens is connected and that you are supported by something much bigger than you can see. I know that life has been challenging for many of you, and I also know that no matter how hard you try to stay calm, doubt and fear creep in. But I want you to know that there is no shame in feeling fear. What matters is what you do with it. When fear comes, it offers you two choices. Either you give in to it, or you choose to listen to the voice of faith. And I assure you, the voice of faith will always lead you to the light. Life doesn't have to be a constant battle against fear. When you choose to trust, it doesn't mean that the challenges will go away, but that you will learn to face them with the certainty that you are not alone. There is a divine force working on your behalf even if you can't see it now. And it is that power that sustains you when you choose to believe, even in the face of the greatest adversity. Now, with a lighter heart, you can begin to see that the situations around you don't have to control your peace. True peace comes from within, and when you begin to live with that inner peace, fear no longer has the power to paralyze you. It becomes a temporary visitor that can no longer occupy your heart. And it is in this daily choice between fear and faith that you discover the power to transform your reality. For when you choose faith, you choose to believe that in the end, all will be well. Not because life will be perfect, but because you will find the strength to weather any storm. And when you do, you become stronger, more serene, and more confident about the road ahead. Hope is often seen as something that comes when things get better, when difficulties go away. But what if I told you that true hope is not a feeling born of circumstances, but an inner choice, an act of decision, of strength, of trust, even when everything around you looks bleak? When everything is in disarray, hope is the certainty that there is something beyond what the eye can see. I know that many of you have experienced moments when hope seemed like a distant utopia. In moments of deep pain, the words, "everything will be all right," can seem empty, as if they are far removed from the reality you are living. But believe me, this hope is not something that comes from outside. It is born within you. It is a choice to believe that even in the midst of chaos, there is something greater that can transform everything. I've seen many people lose hope, sometimes through a simple setback or an irreparable loss. I've seen broken hearts, disillusioned souls, but I've also seen something more powerful, the human capacity to start over. And that new beginning doesn't come from changing circumstances, but from choosing to believe, to trust, to take the first step, even when the path seems dark. When you choose hope, you choose faith in movement. It's not about ignoring pain or difficulty. It's about choosing to look at it with the eyes of faith. I don't know how, but I know I can get through this. That is the voice of hope. Hope does not deny suffering, but believes that it can lead to transformation, renewal, and healing. In fact, it is the force that keeps you standing when everything around you seems to be crumbling. As I walked among the crowds, I realized that the people who suffered the most were those who didn't believe in anything beyond their circumstances. They were so focused on the darkness in front of them that they forgot that the light was already at their fingertips. Hope is the light you carry within you, even when the world around you seems dark. When you choose hope, you turn on that light, and suddenly you begin to see the path before you, partially, but enough to keep going. Hope is a flame that keeps burning when you allow yourself to believe that there is good, even in the midst of chaos. It's not something that just happens, but something you nurture day after day. It's like the little spark that starts a big fire. It may start small, but if you choose to nurture that spark with the confidence that there is a reason for everything, it becomes a powerful force. I'm not saying it's easy. I know that the pain often seems unbearable and the fear paralyzing. I myself have experienced moments of deep fear when the future seemed uncertain and directionless. But even then, I chose to trust. Not in the certainty that everything would be easy, but in the certainty that everything would be part of a greater plan. And that choice is what gave me the strength to keep going. True hope is not the hope for a sudden change in circumstances, but the hope that is sustained by the confidence that even in difficulty, something is being worked on within you. Like the potter who patiently shapes the clay until it becomes a masterpiece, hope shapes you, transforms you, and it is in this process that you find your destiny. In moments of crisis, it's easy to look outward and ask yourself, but true hope teaches you to look inward and ask, what can I learn from this? What can I do to grow from this experience? Because life is not about the absence of difficulties, it is about how you choose to face them. And when you choose hope, you allow yourself to be stronger than any obstacle. Every day you have the opportunity to choose how you get up. Hope is not something that happens by accident, but something you choose day by day, even when the storms are strong. It is a choice of the heart, a choice to believe that no matter how challenging the journey, you can find peace, you can find balance, you can overcome. With each step you take with hope, you create a new reality, a new perspective. It's not about pretending things are okay. It's about believing that eventually everything will make sense, True hope is what keeps you going when everything around you seems to want to bring you down. And when you choose that hope, you find a quiet force that sustains you, gives you courage, and takes you to places you never imagined. And it's in that still power that you find true peace, the kind that doesn't depend on what's going on outside, but on what's going on inside. You know, life doesn't always go the way we plan. Sometimes it surprises us with unexpected challenges, heartbreaking losses, and situations that seem to have no way out. And as much as we try to control everything around us, there's one reality we can't deny. The world doesn't always change when we expect it to, but you can. What really changes the situations around us is not external change, but the change that takes place within us. When I was among you, I saw many people seeking peace, but believing that it would only come when circumstances changed according to their will. The truth, however, is that true peace is not a reward for changing what is outside of us. It comes from our inner transformation. It's when we manage to change our perspective, our way of dealing with difficulties, that situations begin to light up in a new way. The world will continue to be as it is. It will continue with its ups and downs, its storms and calms. But when you change from within, when you choose to live with faith, patience, and trust, everything around you begins to take on a new meaning. It's as if you begin to see the world through clearer, brighter lenses. Change doesn't come because others around you change, but because you choose to see and live in a different way. Often what seems like an impossible obstacle is just an opportunity for you to learn something new about yourself. I don't mean this in a simplistic way, as if it were easy. I know that life tests and challenges us at every turn, but I can tell you one thing for sure: nothing in your life will be the same if you allow yourself to change. As you allow love, peace, and trust to guide your steps, you will begin to notice that the burdens become lighter, not because the weight has disappeared, but because the way you carry it has changed. If you are going through a difficult situation right now, I want you to know that this is not the end. You may be asking yourself, how is this going to end? Or, why am I going through this? But the answer is, it's going to be okay, because you have the power to shift your perception. You can choose how you react, how you grow, how you move forward, and when you make that choice, something magical happens. The pain begins to make sense, the fear begins to dissipate, and however much the circumstances still exist, you find yourself at peace. It's not about denying the challenges, it's about learning to walk through them with confidence. I remember a time when a woman came to me in despair. She had lost everything: her husband, her children, and her very purpose in life. With tears in her eyes, she asked me, "What do I do now, Lord? How can I believe that anything good will happen?" And I looked at her with compassion and said, "You're looking for something outside yourself, but the answer is in your heart. All will be well, not because life is perfect, but because you will find within yourself the strength you never knew you had." And that's what I want you to understand. When you decide to change your vision, everything around you begins to move accordingly. The universe, or rather the divine energy that holds everything together, begins to respond to this new vibration that you're in. And little by little you begin to see doors opening, solutions appearing where there was only uncertainty. This doesn't mean that the problems will go away, but it does mean that you will find the ability to deal with them in a new, easier, more confident way. It's easy to talk about, of course, but it's the practice that really transforms. I know that you often feel alone, overwhelmed, and directionless. But in reality, you are never alone. The Father is with you, with every step, with every breath, guiding you on the right path. Sometimes what you need is not an external change, but a deeper connection to what is already within you. You are already stronger than you know. You already carry a peace that transcends human understanding. And when you begin to trust this truth, you begin to see what was impossible before. The peace that seemed distant, the purpose that seemed lost, the hope that seemed extinguished. Everything begins to blossom again, for change begins with you. And as you change, the world around you begins to change as well, albeit in subtle ways that only you can perceive. So all will be well, not because things will adjust the way you imagine, but because you will learn to live with more peace, more trust, more faith. And that in itself is a great change. When you choose to change the way you see the world and the way you relate to challenges, the world begins to shape itself in ways you never thought possible. And in the end, you'll find that the real change was not in what was happening around you, but in how you chose to deal with it. It doesn't matter where you are or what you are facing. The simple fact of choosing this perspective of transformation is a powerful step. And I can assure you that if you continue on this path, all will be well. For as you transform from within, you will find a silent but unwavering force that will guide you where you need to go. You are not alone. Every step of the way, the Father is at your side, guiding your path, strengthening your soul. When you choose to trust, when you choose hope and faith, peace begins to fill every corner of your being. No matter what the world shows you, you have the power to transform your reality, for it all begins within you. Remember, all will be well, not because circumstances will change, but because you will be able to see and live the good in every moment, in every challenge, in every breath. May your soul be touched by the peace that passes all understanding. May you have the courage to live every step of the way with faith, hope, and confidence. The future is already in your hands. May you be guided by divine light and blessed with the wisdom to always walk in peace. May your path be illuminated, and may you discover the peace that dwells within you.